Good evening. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, during yesterday's sitting of the House of Representatives, said that the government is pursuing several strategies and initiatives to strengthen public security and safety for the people of Jamaica.
And while it is critical that we do what is required in the short term, the country's security architecture is being significantly strengthened and directed towards those measures that will deliver long-term societal transformation. The government has been taking clear steps in its support towards the Ministry of National Security and the departments and agencies that fall under it, with the policy direction, the legislative changes, and the requisite fiscal resources to make Jamaica a safe and secure country. I start with the belief, Madam Speaker, that it is the heart of every member of this Parliament to see Jamaica a safe and secure country.
He said it is of his view that all members of Parliament are in agreement that the safety for all Jamaicans is vital and important.
Safety and security for some may mean that they can conduct their businesses without fear of extortion. It may mean that they can plant their fields and rear their animals without worry of predial larcenies. And it may mean that our young school children can go to school without fear of harassment on public transportation. It may mean that people living in whatever circumstances, in whatever communities across Jamaica, they are able to go to church when they choose. That they don't have to hide underneath their beds because gunshots are being fired widely in their community. In effect, Madam Speaker, it means that deep in the heart of every Jamaican is the wish that they could sleep with their windows and doors.
Prime Minister Holness was addressing Parliament to extend the SOEs in 7 parishes. Mr. Holness also outlined additional legislation that is before Parliament that will help in the government's crime-fighting efforts.
With the new Firearms Act, we're going to use it to the fullest. We are not just relying on emergency powers. We're going to use the Firearms Act to the fullest. Let the gunmen and gun boys be forewarned. Madam Speaker, the Bail Act was tabled in Parliament on the 5th of October, and significant progress is being made to complete the legislation. That is another piece of legislation that will add to our toolkit in coming to grips with this murder crisis that we have in this country. There is a joint select committee established to review the Act, which is expected to come into effect early next year. This committee, the first committee meeting was held on November the 3rd, 2022, and members of the public are being asked to make suggestions regarding the bill by November 30th, 2022. I'll repeat, we are asking members of the public and other interested entities who want to make submissions to make them by November 30th, 2022.
He says he hopes that the opposition shares the urgency to save lives and support the extension of the state of public emergency.
The increasing levels of violence across the island saw the murder rate at 1,360 as of November 13th, 2022. That is the Sunday before the SOE was declared. We were at 1,360. This was a 6.8 percentage point above last year. These high levels of homicide are evident in 10 of 19 police divisions, which have yielded 72% of murders and 75% of shootings nationally.
A 26-year-old construction worker was yesterday charged with raping his 4-year-old neighbor in Westmoreland. He has been identified as Delana Jarrett, otherwise called Dolo, from the parish. Reports from the police are that the child was left at Jarrett's mother's house. During her absence, it is alleged that Jarrett sexually abused the child. A report was made to the police and he was arrested on November 8. The report said a statement recorded from the complainant on Tuesday implicating him, and he was subsequently charged. His court date is being finalized. A team of officers assigned to the Kingston Eastern Police Division seized an illegal firearm and 50 rounds of ammunition during a joint police-military operation on Balkan Avenue, Kingston 17 yesterday. Reports from the Harborview Police are that about 9:30 a.m., lawmen were in the area when a premises occupied by 2 men was searched. During the search, one 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol with 2 magazines and 50 9mm rounds of ammunition were found in an oats box that was inside a refrigerator. 2 men were taken into custody in relation to this seizure. However, their identities are being withheld pending further investigation. In a Mello TV news update, the Jamaica Defense Force, the JDF, says it acknowledges the incident which reported in the media and seen in a video which has been circulating on social media involving soldiers and citizens in central Kingston on Monday. The JDF says the soldiers involved have been removed from the area and are cooperating fully with the Independent Commission of Investigations INDECOM and the Jamaica Constabulary Force investigators. The JDF further said that it is to be noted that soldiers who are deployed into areas of states of public emergencies or zones of public special operations are exposed to human rights training prior to their deployment. Due to the ongoing investigations, the details of the investigations are confidential. The JDF encourages anyone with information relative to take the matter to make a report to INDECOM. Today, the National Water Commission and the Rio Cobre Water Limited signed a contract for the Rio Cobre Public-Private Partnership Agreement project. In his presentation, Prime Minister Andrew Holness noted that the construction of a water treatment plant took 13 years in the making. However, he is thankful that it has finally reached to this point.
As we gather for the contract signing ceremony of the Rio Cobre Public-Private Partnership Project between the National Water Commission and the Rio Cobre Water Limited for the construction of a water treatment plant in Content, St. Catherine, with the capacity of 15 million imperial gallons of water per day. It has taken us 13 years to reach this point. And I pause for the audience to reflect on this. 13 years. I obviously would hope that it would have been accomplished sooner. But I'm thankful that we are here at this point, which is about 900 steps of the 1,000 steps, not 99. The contract signing. The NWC supplies 180 million imperial gallons of potable water each day to its more than 500,000 accounts, representing over 2 million persons across the island. Just for clarity, the NWC is the national utility. It is likely that it supplies the entire population of Jamaica at some point. But there are other utility suppliers. They may not be the national utility, but there are various other suppliers of water in the island, and which is why we are very careful to say that we supply more than 2 million, but not the entire population. But at some point in time, every Jamaican uses the water that the NWC provides.
Mr. Holness pointed out the difficulties that are being caused by droughts on the water system and to citizens.
Is required to supply, on average, approximately 55 million imperial gallons of water daily to meet the requirements in the Kingston metropolitan area. However, presently, only 28 million imperial gallons of water are available for distribution in the KSA during the dry season. And we are having dry seasons now almost on clockwork every 2 years. That's what the tracking is showing us now. These periods of drought, understandably, cause a great level of frustration and inconvenience to our citizens and great stress on the NWC team, who must truck water to customers to alleviate the aggravation and dissatisfaction experienced by their customers. I want to also point out that even outside of periods of drought, there are communities who simply do not have this commodity on a regular, consistent, reliable basis. And it is quite unfortunate, Mr. President, that sometimes we end up having to ration water between communities. And that's simply because we do not have enough reliable supply to meet the demand that exists.
The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce hosted an antimicrobial resistance seminar earlier today in observance of International Antimicrobial Resistance Week. Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Aubin Hill, in his presentation, pointed out this global threat.
Antimicrobials, or AMR as they're known in the business, are essential medicines used to fight disease and infections. Resistance makes common infections harder to treat, increasing the risk of disease, severe illnesses, and even death. This global health and developmental threat requires urgent multi-sectorial action, and my ministry remains committed to leading and supporting strong and sustainable evidence-based solutions. Glad to see the young evidence-based people here so that they can bring the evidence. Look for the evidence. Lots of things will be said, but search for the evidence. The strides we continue to make in manufacturing, agriculture, and the growing productive sector could be severely hampered if efforts are not strengthened to reduce exposure to pathogens such as bacteria or chemical residue along the value chain. And this is important where the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce meet health. You would think that, yes, I should continue to talk about GDP and that kind of stuff, but unless we get the health right, our people won't be able to work. Some of the stuff that we want to export won't be able to export, forget export. Some of the stuff that we want to feed our people won't be acceptable. So it's important that we get the pathogens right and all these health arrangements in place. The sale and consumption of food, for which there are several international guidelines on trade to inform Jamaica's own legislative and regulatory response is also a top priority item on our protection agenda.
Minister Hill also urged Jamaicans to take care of their health and well-being.
To take personal responsibility for your health and well-being. Can't say that enough. You must do that for yourself. In fact, Prime Minister Holness, when we lifted the curfew and so on for COVID, said, look, you are responsible. And congrats to Jamaicans. You have taken it seriously, and we haven't had any major fallout from going back to something closer to normalcy. The overuse of antibiotics in humans, livestock, and agricultural produce have accelerated the threat of antimicrobial resistance worldwide. This is often compounded by poor access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has ushered in a renewed sense of urgency for appropriate health and safety standards. We must endeavor to apply these health principles at all times and offer guidance through personal and business interactions. It's very vital that we do that. There are obvious socioeconomic implications worldwide as health systems become burdened, individual income strained, and the productive sector become stagnant. The World Bank estimates that unless action is taken, the rise of AMR could result in global economic damage on par with the 2008 financial crisis. And you know, some people are still hurting from that.
And that's our news package for tonight. Thank you for tuning in to Mello TV News. I'm Nicole Hales. Pleasant viewing.